So Tamal is now admitting that he and the other ISKCON leaders were actually talking about how gurus were being killed by poison. And they're talking about this at the exact time that Srila Prabhupada is saying that he is being poisoned. So it's a little ironic that the ISKCON leaders were discussing how gurus were sometimes poisoned in order to take over their mission. And then Srila Prabhupada says, my Guru Maharaj also. So Srila Prabhupada's own guru was said to have been poisoned by, a doctor was paid to come and give injections to Srila Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada indicated that his guru would have lived longer, but, something curtailed his life. So his Guru Maharaj, in other words, complained that, he was being given something in these injections, and he didn't want to have these injections for that reason. And then another ISKCON leader named Bhavananda says Prabhupada was complaining of mental distress this morning. And Bhakti Charu says, Srila Prabhupada? And Srila Prabhupada says, yes. And then Bhakti Charu asks, what was the cause of your mental distress? And the doctor is encouraging Prabhupada, Bolio, tell us, what is causing your mental distress? And Srila Prabhupada says, that talk about someone has poisoned me. This is what's causing my mental distress. In other words, the fact that I am probably being poisoned here, this is causing me mental distress. And then Bhakti Charu sums everything up. He just says, someone gave him poison here. So it's very clear. Someone gave him poison here. It just sums up the whole conversation here. Prabhupada's saying, someone is poisoning me. Then the doctor explains how a Shankara guru had been killed by being fed broken glass. Someone was grinding up glass and putting it into his food, and this killed this person. So, in other words, a discussion is going on about how gurus are killed with poison or with broken glass or some other means like this. And then Tamal Krishna says, Prabhupada was thinking that someone had poisoned him. So once again, this sums up the mood and the statements of Prabhupada, that he is thinking someone is poisoning him. And when Prabhupada says Wahibat, that talk, he may be referring to the whispers, which we now know they were whispering, they were talking around him about poison. And then Bhakti Charu confirms that, yes. Tamal Krishna, that was the cause of the mental distress. Bhakti Charu, yes. And then the doctor says, that is what Srila Prabhupada says. There must be some truth in it, there's no doubt. Tamal Krishna, what did the Kaviraj just say? Bhakti Charu, he said that when Srila Prabhupada was saying that he was being poisoned, there must be some truth behind it, and then someone goes, shh, shush. And then everyone begins speaking together. And then the doctor says, it is some Rakshasa, the poison giver. He will put some poison in pan. Pan is a thing that people eat in India. But he's just describing how sometimes people are killed by putting poison into something they're eating. Or he will put it in the milk to eat. Then he will put a medicine in the pan, and by the morning your whole life can be forgotten. In other words, a person can be killed with poison overnight. Tamal Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Shastriji, that's the doctor, says there must be some truth to what you say. So who is it that has poisoned? Srila Prabhupada does not answer. So Prabhupada's being very clever here. He doesn't really give a direct answer. And we think one of the reasons that this tape exists, and I was able to get it later, is because Prabhupada doesn't give a direct answer. If he had just said, well, you guys are talking about poisoning around me here, it's you guys, they would have certainly destroyed that tape, and we would never have known that Prabhupada even complained about being poisoned. So Prabhupada was very clever. He sort of coded his message enough so that we would later on be able to get this tape. Then the doctor says the biggest, worst poison is mercury. So once again, the doctor is explaining his theory that Prabhupada is being given heavy metal poisoning, such as arsenic, which was confirmed later when arsenic was found in a hair sample from Srila Prabhupada. So the doctor was right on. Another doctor in Vrindavan had been given a urine sample of Prabhupada, and he found that the urine was separating out into bone marrow and blood, and that doctor also thought at the time that Prabhupada was being given some kind of heavy metal poisoning. And then the doctor starts talking about a famous poisoning case in India, a man named Swarupa Guha, who had been poisoned by his wife. So, in other words, now they're talking about a motive. Why would somebody poison Prabhupada? Well, just like someone, a wife poisoned the husband in order to take over the assets of the husband. And I spoke with some residents of Vrindavan later on, and they told me, you Westerners aren't really aware of this, but in India, it's quite, a common problem that gurus or saintly people are poisoned, or they're murdered somehow or other, by motivated followers in order to take over the mission. These motivated followers then claim that they are the appointed successors of the guru, and they get rid of the guru and take over so that they can take over the temple and the assets and the money that the guru has. And so therefore this is what happened in ISKCON. The doctor once again brings up the case of Swarup Guha, the poisoning case, and Bhavananda responds, our lawyer is the, and then he starts laughing. So this is very odd. You would think that when Prabhupada is saying he's being poisoned, everybody's talking about Prabhupada being poisoned. People are talking about mercury and heavy metal and gurus being killed. Why is one person laughing in the middle of this whole situation? He's kind of snickering. And this is very significant because it shows that some of the leaders had little or no empathy for Prabhupada. The Kaviraj later on confirmed that he thought this attitude was going on. There was a very party kind of atmosphere going on outside of Prabhupada's room amongst the leaders. They were laughing and joking and jostling each other around like some kind of a party was going on. And inside the room, Prabhupada was, dying of poison. So he related that he felt this was a very dangerous situation, that Prabhupada was, complaining about being poisoned, and outside the room, the leaders were joking and laughing. Then the doctor describes how Mirabai, who was another great devotee, she also had been given poison by someone. And then they started discussing how Prahlad had been poisoned, although, Prahlad was not affected by the poison. But the point is, devotees are sometimes killed or attempted to be killed by poison. So this is clearly being defined now, that Prabhupada says he's being poisoned. Someone gave him poison here, is the way it was interpreted by the people in the room. Everybody agrees that Prabhupada is saying he's being poisoned by someone. So that's the conclusion of all the people in the room at the time. It's also interesting that a few days after Prabhupada left his body, Tamal Krishna was talking to Satsvarup, and Tamal was saying that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to give him something to make him disappear. In other words, Tamal was saying Prabhupada wanted to be poisoned. Now this is on a audio tape, so we have evidence of this conversation. So Tamal was, at the time, obviously very worried that somehow or other the poison issue would leak out, although, they tried very hard. They suppressed the tapes, they suppressed anyone who had information about it, was told to keep their mouth quiet, and so on. But, somehow or other the story did come out anyway. But Tamal was worried it was going to come out much earlier than when we brought it out. We brought it out in 1997, and so in 1977 he was already worried it might come out. So he was telling Satsvarup, in other words, here's going to be our rationale. We're going to tell people that Prabhupada wanted to be poisoned. That was going to be the excuse in case the poison issue surfaced. Another interesting thing is that one of the people in the room was Adri Dharan Das of Calcutta, and I spoke with Adri in 1997, and he told me that everyone in the room was alarmed and upset because Prabhupada had said he was being poisoned.